everyone. Welcome to Rivers Files, episode 3. In today's episode, we will be covering my reflection, which is going to be on class versus individual evidence, our famous crime, which will be I wanted to go over the Lindenberg kidnapping, and finally, our final topic is going to be a current event, which is which is the FDA approves a new drug that it treats solid tumors, which I found interesting. So I wanted to cover that. All right. Without further ado, let's begin. Class versus individual evidence. I had a very difficult time with this. I think I was overthinking it a little bit. I feel like in some situations, something could be classified as class, but like in other situations, it could be individual. um, which there was a little spot on the Venn diagram, which it was both, but I still struggled anyway. And that was the reason why I was putting stuff in different places. Like I got a bunch of them wrong, like a bunch of them. I think 1, 2, 3, 12 of them wrong out of like the 30 something that we did. I wish I could pull them all up so we can go over them, but it doesn't really matter at this point. But what I wanted to go over was class evidence, right? So class evidence is something like a piece of hair or like blood. It's something that can be put into a category, but that's what I'm saying right there. Like I think this is why something, for example, like hair, why I found it hard to label them, or because just in this just in this case right here with fibers, hair fibers, right? It could be considered both, um, according to this, but blood and hair says class evidence, but blood can also be a person's at the same time. So that's why I was I'd had a very difficult time doing it. I mean that was, in my opinion, that was the hardest one that I had to do. Versus individual evidence, it would be anything that can be linked to a single person. But those things could be linked to a single person as well. I mean, it's and then right here it says fingerprints, which fingerprints, yeah, that's a given, right? That should be classified as individual because every individual's fingerprints are their own, right? Nobody has the same fingerprints. But then handwriting, right? Handwriting would be a certain, um according to them, it would be also handwriting will also fall under individual. But I could look at it another way, right? Handwriting could be something else because just handwriting maybe it won't solve you the case. I guess it could give you a good step in that direction, but I think I just overthink. I think I just overthought it. I probably just made it more complicated than it had to be. I think that's why I struggled. But it is what it is, and I wanted to go over that for a little bit. Right here it says, in the evidence that can be categorized into a group: hair color, shoe size, skin color, blood type, gender. But like, I could make a an argument that that hair color could be someone's own, right? And then the other one says evidence that identifies a specific person or thing, like fingerprints, DNA, matching your tears, matching bullets. Um, I think that's one of the things that I had trouble with, like the equipment being individual. evidence, because I think I categorized it the other way, because I was like, any rate can make the same, any for instance, any bullet can make a bullet hole size, right? It's pretty much the same, if the same millimeter. The actual casing is a different story, but like the actual holes is what I had trouble with, which that would be individual evidence as well. But that's the only thing that I had really trouble with. And I wanted to further educate myself on that, because I did struggle with it. Alrighty, moving on. We are going to go over the famous Lindenberg kidnapping. So this happened a very long time ago, 1932. Charles Lindenberg Jr. Was abducted from his home. He was 20 months old. He was abducted, and then they couldn't find him. The person that abducted him left a ransom note. All right, so let's get into it. And Charles Lindbergh, his dad, was a very famous person. I just want to make that clear as well. He had Charles Lindbergh Jr. Was was born from Charles Lindbergh and Anne Lindenberg on her 24th birthday. So on the night of March 1st, 1932, the baby was stolen from the crib in the second floor, while both Lindenbergs and several staff were elsewhere in the house. A ransom note, a broken ladder propped against the outside wall, and other clues were discovered. The Hopewell house was turned into the headquarters of a police investigation over the next few weeks. So with this happened, and then I find this case very weird, right? It doesn't make sense, right? So the ransom note was like $50,000, which is in that point in time was like a lot more. It probably was a lot for that time. So 10 weeks after the kidnapping, on May 12th, the body of the toddler was found partially buried in the woods near the Lindbergh home. This is the thing that I find very odd when I was reading about this case. It's like, why would the kidnapper kidnap the baby and then kill the baby, apparently, which is what happened, right? And then bury the body near the house, and not only that, partially bury it. Not even completely bury it, partially bury it. And then the person and according to them, according to the autopsy, he died the same night they was taken. So it just it doesn't make any sense to me. But um it was 2 years after the fact, so that they found person in the person who kidnapped the baby was a German immigrant named by the name of Bruno Richard Hauptmann. He was charged with extortion and murder because he wanted a ransom, and he murdered because of the baby. So in 1935, it was quickly made into like a huge thing with the media, because Mr. Lindenberg, Charles Lindenberg, was a very famous person at the time. And then a lot of people took the stand, Charles and Anne, and then their witness, John F. Condon, known as Jaffe, which is the guy who was the go-between for the ransom. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me, right? How it all went down. The German guy was caught trying to get gas, using one of the notes from the money that they used for the ransom. Excuse me. um, at the end of the day, so the trial took 3 weeks, and then Hauptmann took the stand. He admitted to lying to the police, but then he kept saying that he was innocent, which makes me believe. I wasn't there at the time. I didn't look too hard into this trial. But he was found guilty of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to death by electrocution, which he died in Trenton, New Jersey. And then after the fact, after the Lindenberg kidnapping case, Congress passed the law of the Federal Kidnapping Act, known as the Lindenberg Law, which means kidnapping is a federal offense, and federal investigators are allowed to pursue them across their jurisdiction. So let's say if the crime is committed in Texas, they can go to Arizona to follow a kidnapper. Alrighty. So what I wanted to go over was this as well. Was another thing. It's all the links for the things that I use are also in the description as well. There's a theory that says, which I think is true, that the father Charles Lindenberg was somehow an accomplice to the crime, which that would make sense to me because of where the kid was found, how the immigrant guy reacted, Mr. Hampton, how he reacted. It just didn't make sense to me, right? They were saying that they wanted more evidence, and then because this is a cold case from the 30s, so you can get away with stuff in the 30s. Nowadays, it's going to be a lot harder to get away with all the DNA and everything that all the technology that's come out. They he probably would not have gotten away with this like he did, in my opinion. I don't know if it's true, but I think because what they were saying was in this article was that Charles Lindbergh was like a person who wanted to procreate with like strong babies, like very like powerful genes, and the Charles Lindbergh Jr. the baby was a very sickly baby. So it was almost as if he was trying to, in his eyes, save face with himself. Like, oh, there's no way I could be the father of a sickly baby like this. I have strong genes. I'm a strong. He was like a strong person. Like that's what I gathered from the article. But the article goes on to say that he was a very famous man in that time, and it just didn't make sense the way the crime was committed. Because in that time, only gangs usually would like abduct family members to try to make more money at that time. It didn't make sense that it was some no-name immigrant carpenter who was from Germany, right? It just didn't make sense to me, at least. So I thought that was very interesting. Um, till this day, they still don't know if he was if he was involved, an accomplice, but I think he was. I really do. Just from reading and how he would carry himself, and then just the way the baby was found that close to the home, it doesn't make sense to me. But that's the Charles Lindenberg kidnapping case, which it helped, even though it was a little odd how it went down. It helped with kidnapping cases going forward in the United States, which is a good thing. And finally, we have a current event. This is from US News, the World Report. U.S. FDA approves Daiichi AstraZeneca drug for treatment of solid tumors. I think this is awesome. Um, so far, from what I've read in the clinical trials, there's not much um, that happens when you take the drug. There's no like, it's not like chemotherapy. So it belongs to the class of therapies called antibody drug conjugate and comprises of monoclonal antibodies, and this also known as hepsertipin, chemically linked to cell-killing chemo drug to a cell-killing chemo drug. So what it does, it attacks like solid masses, which if you know anything about cancer, most or pretty much all they find masses. Like say in the lungs, they find the mass. In the kidney, they find the mass, and then they get people have they're diagnosed with cancer. It was originally named Eethru, originally won U.S. approval in late 2019 as a third-line treatment for HER2 positive breast cancer patients. And the fresh approval opens the treatment across multiple HER2 expressing solid tumors. So I just found this very interesting. Secure the rights to Daiko compound, worth up to 6.9 billion. Of course, it's going to be a lot of money. Like anything with farm, big farm makes makes a lot of money. In 2022, the drug generated sales of 1.2 billion as a treatment for breast cancer, gastric cancer, and lung cancer. So I everyone knows someone who's died from cancer. So I'm very excited about something like a drug like this coming out that helps with cancer treatments. But I think it's taking so long to get to this point. It's crazy how long cancer's been around, and they don't have like something better than like chemotherapy treatments. It just baffles me sometimes, but I think this is a good step in that right direction. Um, that's why I wanted to talk about it today. Alrighty, so that's the end of episode 3. I just wanted to just remember to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching if you made it to the end of this stream. Thank you.